Hi everyone, we're on Unit 5 today, and this is topic number 4. And for most of you guys, topic number 4, called interval notation, is going to be a brand new topic. I think some of you guys have seen inequalities in middle school, but interval notation, today's topic, I think will be new to pretty much everybody. So I'm going to read this definition of what interval notation is. So interval notation is an alternative way, so a different way, to represent inequalities and number lines without drawing a number line. So basically, we know that if we have an inequality, we can draw it on a number line, and now we're going to learn this new notation to describe the inequality without a number line. So here are some key features about interval notation. First is that we use square brackets. Square brackets literally look like this. Instead of parentheses, they have hard edges like that. It says we use square brackets to represent endpoints that are included in the solution, which means square brackets go with symbols like this: greater than or equal to, and less than or equal to. So these all go together. And then it says we use parentheses, so parentheses are these regular parentheses that we're used to represent endpoints that are not included in the solution. So that means parentheses go with symbols like this: greater than or less than, with no line underneath. So the next thing says that we use these symbols here, positive, and this symbol means infinity. And I know that you guys know infinity means it goes forever and ever and ever. Positive infinity means that the number is so big that on a number line we can't actually plot that number. It just keeps going to the right on a number line forever. Negative infinity means that it's a number that's so big but negative, so actually that would mean so small, that it goes to the left forever on a number line. So we use positive infinity and negative infinity to represent the direction the arrows point. And I'm just going to make a little something right here. I'm going to squeeze in some space. I'm going to draw a number line. And on a number line, all the way to the right, that's positive infinity. All the way to the left, oops, I made a negative. All the way to the left, that's negative infinity. So these are like some key things that we need to remember. All right, so now we're going to actually read this inequality. So we know what this one says. This inequality says x is greater than negative 10. So in our last topic, we talked about how to graph this. So I'm going to plot negative 10, and x is greater than negative 10 means I'm going to shade all of the values to the right of negative 10. And since there's no symbol underneath the greater than symbol, it means I'm not going to include negative 10. So open circle, and then I'm going to shade to the right. So I'm going to make my big arrow, shade to the right of negative 10. Now, to write my interval notation, the first thing I'm going to look at is I'm going to just read my answer from left to right, smallest to largest. So the furthest to the left is negative 10. So I'm going to put that number first. And then my arrow points to the right. So remember, when we point to the right, it means we're pointing to positive infinity. Positive infinity is to the right. So this interval starts at negative 10, ends at infinity. And I didn't put a positive symbol there just because usually we don't put a positive symbol. We know that means positive. Now with the number infinity, I'm always going to use a parenthesis. With the number negative 10, I have to look at my circle, and since it is open and not included, I'm going to use a parenthesis. All right, let's look at this one. The next example says I am given an interval. And from left to right, it means that the smallest number is negative infinity, which means that if I were to shade, when I shade, I'm going to be pointing to the left toward negative infinity. And it means that the biggest number that I'm going to plot is 5. So I'm going to put a 5 right here, and I'm going to go up to 5. And now I have to think about, am I going to put an open circle or am I going to shade this in? And since this is a square bracket, make sure this looks square to you guys, that means I'm going to shade in right there. Now to describe this as an interval, we know that this means that x is all of the values smaller than or less than or equal to, since we're shaded in, 5. All right, next example, we have 7 is less than or equal to x. Now, I like rewriting this right away by switching the x and the 7, and then also turning the sign around to go this way, because I think this is easier to graph. X is greater than or equal to 7. I'm going to plot a 7. I'm going to draw my circle, and since it's greater than or equal to, I'm going to shade it in. And it's all the values greater than 7, I'm going to shade to the right. All right, so when I write my interval, I'm going to think I have to put 2 numbers here. And remember, when I'm pointing to the right, I'm going to have a positive infinity. But when this, and the smallest number, 7, is going to go here. So my interval starts at 7, ends at infinity. Infinity always has a parenthesis. 7 is shaded in, so it has a bracket. All right, next one, negative infinity to 6. Negative infinity means I shade to the left. All right, so I'm shading to the left, and it's going to end here at 6. So I have to decide, do I shade my circle in or not? And I look here at my parenthesis, which means I leave this as an open circle. And then this means that I'm shading all the values less than 6, and I do not put a line underneath here because it's an open circle and a parenthesis. All right, last example. This is an interesting example. I have 2 different numbers here. This says 2 is less than x. So I'm going to actually rewrite this as 2 different intervals. So the one interval, the one on the right, is this. X is less than or equal to 10. I know what that means. Now the one on the left, 2 is less than x. I'm going to rewrite that and put x first and 2 second. And I'm going to switch the sign. Instead of pointing to the left, I'm going to point this way. So this really means that I have 2 different inequalities to plot. My x value is going to be greater than 2. So I'm going to put a 2 on the number line. And then imagine I have all these tick marks, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then I'll put a 10 here. So I'm going to graph all of the values bigger than 2 and not including 2, so I'm going to keep that circle open, and less than or equal to 10. So I'm going to circle 10, and I'm going to shade it in because it's less than or equal to. And this really means that I'm going to plot all of the values in between them. So we don't go, no arrows in this one. I have a start and a stop. And so when I do the interval, I have my starting value and stopping value. I'm starting at 2, stopping at 10. 2 is an open circle, so I'm going to use a parenthesis. 10 is a closed circle, so I'm going to use a bracket. Alright, so it's a brand new notation, so you will practice this on your homework tonight. I believe we're still in homework 1 in the packet, so good luck.